In every small town, there are stories that never make the headlines. Secrets hidden behind smiles, friendships that crumble into obsession, and love that ends in tragedy. This is one of those stories. A story of trust broken, lives destroyed, and a quiet neighborhood that would never be the same again. Jessica Moore was known as a devoted wife, a kind neighbor, and the mother everyone admired. She had built a calm, steady life with her husband, David. Together for nearly 15 years, they were the couple people looked up to, the perfect marriage, or so it seemed. David Moore was a local contractor. Hands-on, charming, and respected. Jessica managed a small real estate office in town. Their lives were comfortable, predictable, and seemingly happy. But beneath that surface, something had started to crack. David's long work hours and frequent business trips left Jessica feeling alone. What began as quiet distance soon turned into emotional isolation. That's when she met Stephanie Carter, a new hire at the real estate firm, younger, outgoing, and full of energy. Stephanie's warmth made Jessica feel seen again. The two women quickly became friends. They had coffee breaks, shared lunches, and swapped stories about love and disappointment. But what Jessica didn't know was that her new friend had already crossed paths with her husband. Before Jessica ever introduced them, Stephanie had met David months earlier, through a renovation project he handled for her cousin. They had exchanged numbers. First, it was harmless. A few jokes, a few late-night texts. But soon, it turned into something else. When David discovered that his secret texting partner now worked alongside his wife, he panicked. He tried to distance himself, but the chemistry between him and Stephanie had already grown dangerous. Messages turned flirtatious. Meetings became intimate. And before long, David Moore was living two lives. Devoted husband at home, secret lover in the shadows. Jessica noticed the changes. The late nights, the vague excuses, the sudden obsession with privacy. She confronted him once, and he denied everything. But deep down, Jessica's instincts told her the truth. One evening, while David was in the shower, she checked his phone. What she found shattered her world. Hundreds of messages between him and Stephanie. Photos, confessions, promises of a new life together. Her heartbreak turned into rage. But instead of screaming or leaving, Jessica chose silence. She began documenting everything. Saving messages, tracking his movements, and quietly preparing for what she believed would be her moment of truth. Weeks later, at a company gathering, Jessica arrived unexpectedly. Stephanie froze when she saw her. David followed minutes later, clearly not expecting his wife to show up. What followed wasn't a scene of shouting or accusations. Jessica simply walked up, smiled, and said, "I hope the two of you are happy." Then she left, calm, composed. But inside, she was breaking. That night, David came home to an empty house. Jessica gone, her wedding ring left on the kitchen table beside printed screenshots of his messages with Stephanie. For David, guilt quickly turned into desperation. He tried calling Jessica dozens of times. No answer. He even showed up at Stephanie's apartment, demanding they get their stories straight. Stephanie was terrified. She wanted out. She had never expected things to spiral this far. But David wasn't ready to lose everything. His marriage, his reputation, his carefully built life. Stephanie told a close friend that she feared David was acting unstable. She considered going to the police, but never got the chance. On the night of September 14th, neighbors reported hearing shouting from outside Stephanie's apartment. Minutes later, silence. By morning, police arrived to find Stephanie dead from a single gunshot wound. The weapon was never recovered. David claimed it was suicide, but investigators quickly found inconsistencies, blood spatter angles, missing evidence, and traces of gunpowder on his jacket. When detectives reviewed security footage, they saw David's truck parked near Stephanie's apartment that night. He was arrested 2 days later. Prosecutors painted a clear picture. A man caught in his lies, an affair exposed, a desperate act to silence the only person who could destroy him completely. The defense argued it was a tragic accident. that Stephanie had taken her own life. But forensic evidence told another story, one of struggle, anger, and control. After 3 weeks of testimony and over 2,000 pieces of evidence, the jury returned with a verdict: guilty of second-degree murder. David Moore was sentenced to 35 years in prison. Jessica never returned to her old home. She sold everything, changed her name, and moved out of state. In court, she refused to face David, saying only one sentence to reporters: he destroyed more than 2 lives that night. Stephanie's family created a scholarship in her name for young women pursuing business degrees, hoping that her memory would live beyond the tragedy. The story of Jessica, David, and Stephanie reminds us that behind even the most perfect lives, darkness can take root. Love, when twisted by lies and fear, can turn into something deadly. If you or someone you know is in an abusive or manipulative relationship, please reach out for help. Don't wait until it's too late. This was the story of trust, betrayal, and a tragedy that shook an entire community. I'm your host. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true crime documentaries.